Was it because of his injury or because he wasn't playing well?
It was, it was more or less, there were some things there in those first, few drives. You never know what's going through a guy's mind in those situations, but there were some things there that are plays that he would normally make. And, you have to kind of get in their head of why and what, and, if he's thinking about something else or whatever it is, again, you got to give Utah credit. But it was more so just things that plays that we thought could be made. And that's on me.
Steve Mims, hold your hand up, Steve, so she can see you. She doesn't know.
Mark, you talked about the change in the starters in the secondary and just kind of trying to create something there, and what did you see tonight from those guys and the defensive backs?
Well, obviously a lot of stuff to improve upon. Just some guys, we needed to create some competition, and the guys that have played a little bit better over the last couple of weeks are the guys that are in there. And, we've got a bunch of work to do.
Right here on the right, Dan.
Mark, this is a situation that you haven't really found yourself in as the Oregon head coach, and rarely, obviously. What did you tell your team, since they haven't really had to have a conversation like this very often, if ever?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what I've said so far. Give Utah a ton of credit for how they played, and then our reaction is what matters to this. How we come together, the voices that we listen to that really matter in terms of how you respond to a situation like this, and then we had a few guys that one mistake turned into six, or one mistake turned into, just kind of being in the tank for the rest of the night and snapping out of that and turning that into experience.
Jeff Lockey's in the confessionals right here, Ken, on the right.
Yeah, Mark, just sort of piggybacking on that question, do you change something after a game like this, or do you just sort of double down on what it is you've been doing?
In terms of?
In your preparation and how you talk to your team and how you organize things and to get ready for the next game.
No, we're very honest, with our guys. And again, when we play like we played, it's on me. And that's again, offense, defense, special teams, that's blame me right here. And now how does every single individual do that same thing in terms of recognizing what they could have differently, better, more, whatever it is, less, and go forward. That's the key. How tomorrow and the next day you take this, you absolutely look at it, you take it for what it's worth, you accept, what you need to accept, flush it, and move on. And we will do that.
Mark, could you see this outcome and the way they played out happening in your wildest dreams?
Well, no, of course not in terms of there's just a lot of bizarre things that happened in that game that are very unforeseen. And again, that's a very good football team, very confident football team, hot football team, and give them credit for that part of it.
Is there other Pac-12 coaches have talked about how difficult a matchup Utah is for various reasons? In your mind, before and even after this outcome, what makes them so difficult or unusual, maybe?
Well, they can run the ball, they can stop the run, and they have great special teams, and that combination is pretty tried and true in football.
Bill Austin.
Mark, you mentioned some of the bizarre stuff that happened. Were you aware of the rule when the punt hits the camera, and then was it kind of symbolic of the night that then they run the fake and get the first down there?
You could say that. Yes, I was aware of that rule of, the whatever that's called, a foreign object or whatever. And that's the kind of stuff that we have to, those are things that they've done before, things that they've run before, things that we've practiced. And we have to coach it better and execute it better.
Mark, I think Washington was the last team to score as many points on you, or top 60 mark on you guys. How do you get your players? But this is a team that's played in New Year's Day Bowls 5 of the last 6 years, and the other time they were up contending for the Pac-12 championship with 2 games left. How do you get these athletes back to thinking and grinding and battling? Will that be more difficult than after Arizona last year?
Oh, that remains to be seen. The voices in the locker room tonight were good. As far as as that goes, there's nobody in there, really excited about tonight in any way, shape, or form. But that remains to be seen. The culture of our team. I love our players. I love how I think they're going to respond, and they will respond. Those aren't discussions you enjoy having, but it's. We got our tails kicked. We have to own it and move on.
Coach Neal's available in the back. Coach Neal in the back, right here, Matt, in the front left.
On Sunday, you said if Utah had their way, they'd only want to rush 4 guys and drop 7. Is that kind of the foundation for your guys' struggles tonight?
They did. They did a lot of that. They pressured a little bit, but yeah, they tried to drop 8, drop 7, and see if they could create pressure. And then obviously with the score getting the way it was, that becomes a little bit easier.
Anyone else? Dan?
Mark, between now and when you guys return to the practice field, what do you want your players to do? Do you want certain players to take leadership roles and have meetings? I mean, how much do you want them to focus together as a group, as players on this?
Yeah, they'll do that. Naturally there's shock, that will set in, and then just taking ownership of what happened, what each individual can do, differently, better, more or less, starting with me and all the coaches, and then taking a look, at the film, take all those things and then flush it and move forward. You have to be able to do that in any business, and certainly in football, you have to evaluate from the good, evaluate from the not so good, and grind.